Welcome to Know Your Sheet. From tracking targets to budget battles, I've got a sheet for that. Let's get organized so you can know your sheet too. In this mini-series, we will work to know your budget sheet. This mini-series will walk you through setting up a spreadsheet to help you keep track of your income and expenses so you can start taking more control of where your money goes. Welcome to the first episode of Know Your Budget. In this episode, we will focus on getting the income and the basic expenses and summing them up every month so you can see exactly what goes in and out of your budget. The first thing we're going to do is start with a brand new workbook in Excel, and we're going to start with a blank sheet. Let's go ahead and label the months. We will go ahead and just type out the first 3 months, and you should be able to just drag and allow it to automatically fill in all the way to December. We'll work on formatting in a later episode, but in order to make the headings stand out a bit more, we're going to go ahead and bold and just increase the font in it so it stands out a bit more. And then let's go ahead and name this sheet 2025. So we're going to go ahead and start listing our income first. Now, there are many ways you can do this. It is best to list this how it best fits how you receive income. And I personally like to itemize everything for accuracy, but do what makes sense for you. For instance, if you get paid weekly, you can list out the weeks, 5 weeks. I like to add miscellaneous rows in case of reimbursements, tax returns, adjustments, unexpected income. But for the most part, if you get paid twice a month, doing the 15th end of month, and then adding those 2 miscellaneous rows, that would work. So I'm going to put some numbers in here. It probably won't add up properly near the end, but we need to get some data in here so we can play around with it so you can see how this actually works. So once you have your 15th and end of month income, you can do a total income row where we go ahead and sum the amount of income you have. And once you have that formula in, you can copy this across all the months. And we'll go ahead and fill in all the way up through August. So we have data for the year up until current. Now, let's get to the fun and more chaotic part, our expenses. We should start with fixed bills. That should be the same every month. So let's go ahead. Let's add a header for this section so we can separate it out. So there's rent or mortgage, any streaming services you may have, subscriptions that you may have, your cell phone bill, internet. Something that I do like to do is actually categorize my utilities separate from my regular expenses. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So for utilities, we're talking cell phone, internet, gas, electric, etc. So let's get those separated out and all entered in. Once you get the hang of this, you group this data however it makes the most sense for you. I'm just sharing how I would group it and how I would set up my spreadsheet so that I can look at it at a glance and easily determine certain things from it. Your focus may be completely different than mine, so once we get this going, feel free to move the rows around and sum it differently, group it differently. Next, we'll go ahead and add credit cards. Okay, so credit cards get a little more complicated, but for this version of the spreadsheet, let's go ahead and assume we're either paying the full credit card amount or we're just going to note how much we're paying on the credit card. So the rollover balance, interest fees, we'll talk about that in another video. So for right now, it's just how much we're actually taking out of our account to pay the credit card. And that's what we'll log here for now. So we'll put in some bank, Target, Amazon, Best Buy card as examples. Obviously, fill this in with the actual credit cards you have. What we'll also do is let's start filling in these expenses with some data because the spreadsheet would make so much more sense if there's actual numbers that we can look at. I'm going to also go ahead and go through and format all of this in currency so that visually it's a little easier to look at the amounts and totals with decimal points and commas. Okay, now let's get back to filling out all these expenses with some fake data. We're going to go ahead and pretend like we have some streaming services that we started later and some ending that we're not going to renew, just so we have some variation in our totals. We're going to go ahead and have our cell phone and internet bill be the same every month, but let's make gas and electric more expensive during the winter than the summer. And then we can have water and utilities. For right now, let's just keep those consistent every month. Although that's not really accurate, but it'll do for right now. And then now let's put in some credit card data. We're just going to put some varying amounts because we tend to use some credit cards for bigger purchases or more purchases than others. But what I'm going to do here, obviously in a normal budget spreadsheet, you wouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and actually generate some random values so that I don't have to think and make up numbers here. And let's just kind of use this formula to help us generate some more realistic looking data. And once we have the numbers in place, we can go back and start creating sums for each of these categories of our expenses. You'll notice that every time I enter something or change a formula, the random number generator formula I did keeps changing. So we're going to go ahead and copy and paste the value so that the values that were generated become the actual value in the cell so that they don't keep changing on us, because that's going to be very confusing when the sum of the credit cards keep changing on us. Now we can continue summing up these different expenses and I can't help myself. I'm going to go ahead and format it so that we can easily see the sum rows, the total rows. Once we have all these totals, let's go ahead and get the total of the bills and the total in-out difference so we can see how we're doing each month on our budget. So for the total of the bills, we're just going to sum up the 3 total rows. And in-out difference, we will take the total income and subtract the total bills. And let's go ahead and copy that to all the months. And of course, I'll have to do a little bit of formatting here because I cannot help myself. I am a very visual person, so I like to be able to spot things based on color and font very quickly when I look at my data. So there you have it. We have our first simple version of our budget sheet. Check out the next video in this mini-series to see how we will expand and grow this spreadsheet so we can add irregular expenses, review averages, and start making use of the data we're collecting. This series has 4 episodes planned, but if you've got questions or requests, leave them in the comments. I'll dig through them all and whip up part 5 based on what you want added to the budget spreadsheet, because your sheet should work for you. Got a spreadsheet win or a formula fail? Drop it in the comments and share your sheet. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep your cells clean and your formulas tight. And remember, don't just use your sheet, know your sheet.